What is going on, everyone? It is me, Lonebot Wanderer, here with a Fallout video about the future of the Fallout franchise. Now, before I get started, the interview that I'm talking about is linked in the description below. It was conducted by All Out on Sugar Bombed. Check it out, it's an interesting read. And essentially, he's interviewing Chris Avellone, who, if you don't know, of course, has worked on the Fallout franchise, including on Fallout New Vegas, while at Obsidian. And he said some things in that interview which suggest that Fallout is unlikely, perhaps very unlikely, to ever go back to Obsidian. Now, please bear in mind, I said unlikely in the title. It's not confirmed that it's never going back, okay? The title is intentionally vague like that. It's simply unlikely, judging by the things that he said, which is reinforcing what he said on Twitter in the past, but let me get to that. So in response to a question about Fallout New Orleans, essentially there were some people that worked at Obsidian that wanted to make a new Fallout game set in New Orleans, and Chris Avellone stated that states have been publicly revealed as codenames for Obsidian projects. I can't reveal what they are actually doing. So you know, the person who had the idea for New Orleans isn't there any longer. He left many years ago, not long after the mass layoffs. And the last person to publicly advocate the desire to do a Fallout game has also departed the studio. So essentially here, all of the past employees, seemingly anyways, at Obsidian that wanted to do another Fallout game, or at least publicly advocated that they wanted to do another Fallout game set in New Orleans, aren't there at Obsidian anymore because there was some sort of layoff. Now, some of you might be asking, look, Lone, this doesn't necessarily mean that Fallout is unlikely to go back to Obsidian. It is when you bear in mind the tweet that you see on screen right now. Thanks to Volta Daedalus for mentioning this to me in a private DM. But again, it's Chris Avellone here saying quite a while ago, I believe it was March of this year, saying that in response to a question based on Fallout, Chris Avellone responds with, "Nah, I freelance now, no Obsidian. Besides, don't think the franchise, as in Fallout, will go beyond Bethesda again, and that's why I freelance." There's also another tweet where he mentions, "Oh, it'll be fine, but I don't think Fallout will go beyond Bethesda again, and certainly not to Obsidian." So that's really putting the theoretical nail in the coffin. So Chris Avellone does mention a number of interesting things in that interview. Nothing that really goes to whether Fallout is ever going to go back to Obsidian. It's more that paragraph I mentioned before when read in context with this previous tweet by Chris Avellone. So it just seems unlikely that Fallout is not going to go back to Obsidian. Again, I can't stress this enough, it's not confirmed, and my title does not say it's confirmed that it's never going back. But it does seem unlikely, especially when you read the entire interview. And I know that a lot of people that are big fans of New Vegas would probably be disappointed with this. Even though Obsidian's core development team seems to have changed a lot since the time of Fallout New Vegas, we know that they are still a very good studio, and the South Park games are a great testament to that. Even though I haven't played Stick of Truth, it does have a lot of great reviews, and people do really rave about that game. So I have no doubt that if Obsidian were to ever get the Fallout franchise again, that they would make an equally or even better game than Fallout New Vegas. So it is disappointing to see that, you know, perhaps Fallout is never going to go back to the studio. But I've mentioned this in a video before, and I'll link it in the description below if you want to check it out. I essentially said that, look, if Fallout, the franchise, does not go to a third-party developer such as Obsidian or any other developer for that matter, it's probably going to be over 10 years, if not more, before we actually get another Fallout game, because Bethesda Game Studios is working on 2 big projects at the moment. They're also going to be doing Elder Scrolls 6 eventually, and probably other projects. Even though they have the Montreal studio helping them out, it's still going to be a very, very long time, and I explain in that video why I think it's going to be a decade. Again, check the link in the description below. And it's unfortunate, not just for New Vegas fans, but for Fallout fans in general. Whether you actually like New Vegas or not is kind of besides the point here. The point that I'm trying to reinforce, both in that past video and now, is that what Fallout fan really wants to go 10 plus years without another Fallout game? Some of you might really like BGS and their take on the Fallout franchise. Some of you may really like Obsidian's take on the Fallout franchise. What I would like to see is just more Fallout games, regardless of who works on them. So long as they bring their own perspectives, so long as they add their own personal touch to the Fallout franchise, I think that kind of diversity is important. And I've always been an advocate for trying to not always have one studio work on the same IP in the same franchise. I think that in most cases having that variation is important because you don't want the developers at one particular studio, even though they interchange a lot, mind you, but you don't want things to get stale at one particular studio. You want developers to work on different things to keep their mind fresh, in my opinion anyways. So yeah, I think it's kind of unfortunate that it seems that Obsidian is never going to be working on the Fallout franchise again. They might very well do so, or in fact it might go to a different development studio. For example, it could go to a development studio that sits directly under Bethesda, because Obsidian does not, as opposed to other studios under the Bethesda family. So this is really just a quick update on that. I would love to know what all of you think about this in the comments below. I'll ask a similar question that I asked in that previous video that I linked. If it wasn't Obsidian, which other developer would you like to see work on the Fallout franchise? Please let me know. And until next time, this has been the Lone Vault Wanderer. Please take care of yourself, and would you kindly keep fighting the good fight.